For 11 years, Nigeria's political leaders have repeatedly pledged to pursue peaceful elections and respect the democratic process. The journey began in 2014 with the establishment of the National Peace Committee ahead of the 2015 general election. The first National Peace Accord was signed in January of 2015, with candidates committing to peaceful campaigns, respect for opponents, and the rule of law. The agreement was renewed in 2019, while two more accords were signed ahead of the 2023 elections in September 2022 and February 2023. But despite these commitments, political violence remains a concern, with more than 200 violent political events involving party members and supporters recorded in the 12 months before the 2023 poll. With another peace accord signed in August 2026, the question now is, will the 2027 finally turn political promises into peaceful action? With another accord signed in August 2026, the record shows that peace pledges alone cannot prevent electoral violence without accountability before the 2027 elections. Sam Kargbo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and George Anwayi, Assistant Program Manager, TAF Africa, joins me with this conversation this evening. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me this evening.
All right. I don't know, Sam, can you hear me?
I can hear you, right?
Okay, so let me begin with you, Sam. I mean, after 4 separate peace accords between 2015 and 2023, and with, of course, political violence still recorded ahead of the last election, what concrete enforcement mechanism will make the 2026 accord different from those that came before it?
I would think that the starting point is about what the Constitution says and how the provision of the Constitution is operationalized by the Electoral Act. The Constitution is very clear. No political party is allowed to maintain and use an army of political thugs, meaning that the Constitution specifically prescribes for a political environment that would not discourage people from participating in the electoral process. Mind you, it's a constitutional right for every Nigerian to participate in the choice of the people who are going to occupy public and elective offices. And the starting point is at the campaign rallies. How are the parties organized is prescribed, because the Constitution went as far as saying that any political party that by itself breach any of the conditions for its own registration is capable of being deregistered. So I would think that that's the starting point. And the Electoral Act, in the sections that operationalize Section 227 of the Constitution, that is sections 95 to 97, they made it very clear. And the starting point is, in fact, the responsibility given to the Commissioner of Police of each state to ensure that all political rallies are monitored and more or less controlled by its office to ensure that they are conducted peacefully. The Electoral Act also went beyond that to prohibit what I would call provocative language, a language that is targeted at any part of Nigeria, any religion, and in particular, any political candidate, meaning that interpret language, provocative language, toxic conduct are all prohibited by Electoral Act. So if you ask me, let's start by the responsibility of the police and the security agencies to enforce those provisions, because it is not just about the political actors, it's about Nigerians themselves.
Sam, if you can hear me, I mean, aren't we already breaching this law already? I mean, I'll come back to you shortly, I mean, to continue with that conversation, but let me switch to George. George, can we really have a realistically peaceful 2027 elections without first addressing the underlying drivers of political violence, including electoral impunity, inflammatory rhetoric, misinformation, and the struggle for political power?
Yeah, you've said it. We It's not just about rhetorics. It's not just about yes, signing peace accord is very important. It helps to appeal to the conscience of the political elites, to play by the rule. But it's important that from the political parties, the political actors themselves, they have to see reason, they have to see the need to call to order their followers. They have to call to order the people, that they are leading in the political parties and, of course, as political actors. This is a responsibility upon the political class. Election is not war. If you want to lead the people, you want to govern the people, it's not by force. The people have to exercise their rights. That's what democracy is about. Democracy is about citizens exercising their rights, citizens deciding who lead them through the electoral process. It's important that our leaders understand that what we need at this point is governance, good governance, not just to cling to power, not just to get into offices, have power, and then call the shot. It's about the people. If you realize that democracy is about the people, and it is what the people want that they have at the end of the day, we'll talk to ourselves and we'll talk to our followers and say, no, we don't have to fight. You don't have to, if you have something to offer, then there is no need to fuel violence. Starting from speeches, how political leaders, how candidates speak,
Right.
via the social media, the conventional media. We don't have to speak words that fuel violence,
All right.
that fuel crisis. This is the responsibility on the political class, and we must all, political class, the candidates must really call their people, their followers to order.
All right, George. Let me switch again to Sam Kargbo. Sam, you mentioned earlier in monitoring what these political actors say during electioneering campaigns. I'm wondering, really, don't you think we have already, started on a false lane, given that there are some presidential candidates, didn't even show for the signing?
Well, you see, the signing in itself is just symbolic, but the law is there. It's the entire architecture of the campaign by itself, like I have said, is what would I call it now? Prescribed by the Constitution. The Constitution anticipate and more or less prescribe a political environment that would allow every adult in Nigeria who has reached the age for voting to participate in both the campaigns and the entire electoral process.
So you're not worried.
And therefore,
so you're not worried
yes,
that some presidential candidate did not show up for the signing. I mean, even if it is symbolic, at least let everybody see that the entire presidential candidates of the country, 19 of them, are actually committing to peace while this campaign kicks in.
I agree with you entirely, because that is also, I would, if I'm allowed to say so, is disrespectful to the entire polity for political parties to abstain from that very particular event, because, like I've said, it also has its own constructive significance, because all of the problem we are talking about, it's not just about what the candidates say or what those who climb the podium say, but rather about the conduct of their supporters as well. If a leader of a political party or a candidate of a political party has submitted himself publicly to a peaceful campaign and rallies, that by itself should trickle down to its own followers and more or less given them the what would I call it, the message,
Right.
like the gentleman over there said, it shouldn't be a war. It's not a do or die thing. Yes,
Absolutely.
those political actors are desperate to accede to power because what? Governance, like we know it here, is what? The most lucrative economy. So everybody wants to latch onto it. And
Right.
that do or die mentality is what
Okay.
we are talking about here. Yes, they say all is fair in politics, but the law has by itself anticipated that
Absolutely.
and set the ground rules.
Right.
So I would think that what we have here is a balance between what I would call we, the people's responsibility to what we need, and those who are entrusted with what? Enforcing the law
All right.
to do their job.
Sam,
Because this is not just about INEC. INEC cannot, by itself alone, police, control, and more or less what?
all right, Sam Kargbo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, many thanks for your thoughts. George Anwayi, Assistant Program Manager, TAF. It's a continuous conversation, and I'm sure that in due course we would x-ray this further with a view to finding out, more ways to get us off the net as it relates to the elections as we build up to the 2027 general elections.